Sandrone is going to be released in version 6.7, which means we're starting to get more and more information on how she's gonna work in-game, what teams she's gonna work in, and if her new character model is actually going to completely change her personality or not. Now, since there's also a lot of fake leaks going around about this, and a lot of players are even starting to speculate that Capitano could be her best in slot teammate, as always, we're gonna take a look at everything we know so far and which of these things are actually true. But before we get into it, if you want to pull for Nicole or anyone else, let me introduce you to U7Buy. On U7Buy, you can save over 25% when buying Genesis crystals, which is much cheaper than buying them in-game. Now, don't worry, they top up through official providers, and they also have over 45,000 reviews on Trustpilot, so it's completely safe to use. If you want to top up, all you have to do is just click on whatever you want, enter your UID and server, and the Genesis crystals will arrive on your account just like that. Just make sure to check the actual price at checkout before you buy, and you can also use my code to get a 25% off on top of your purchase. So if you want to top up and save some money at the same time, click the link in the video description or the pinned comment and make sure to check out U7Buy. And now let's get back to the video. Now, before we talk about her and Capitano and where this weird connection even came from in the first place, I want to talk about her personality change and also how she's going to work in-game. So, regarding Sandrone's personality change, the reason why a lot of people thought that she would have a different personality, and there's even been leaks about that, which I already debunked. I already talked about that before, and I told you guys this was not going to be true. A lot of people thought that because Sandrone was going to get a new character model, that she would have a different personality and she wouldn't be the same as she was before in terms of how she acts. And as you guys can see, all these leaks about her new personality turned out to be wrong, exactly as we predicted it. I'm so thankful they didn't change her personality because her current personality is perfect. A lot of people dislike it, but I'm one of those people who really like her current personality because it's just really unique compared to all the other characters, and she has such a strong way of expressing herself. I don't know, I'm a huge fan of the way she is right now, so it's a really good thing that they didn't change that and she's going to stay exactly the same in terms of how she acts and how she speaks and all that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for her personality. Let's move on to how she's gonna work in game. Now, this is really interesting because we already had a very specific leak about this a few weeks back. And hold on, let me show you guys what I'm talking about. Now, some of you might remember this leak from one of my last videos because we already talked about this. And the funny part is, last time we talked about this, I thought this was complete bullshit. I thought all this information about her kid was not true at all, except for the fact that she's going to be a superconduct character and all the obvious things. But the exact information about her kid, I thought this was not going to be true. But now that we know all the stuff about the new artifact set, and the fact that she's going to be a superconduct character, and the fact that she's going to introduce a new reaction that we're also going to be using in Snezhnaya, there's a much higher chance now that this information about her kid might actually be true. So let's take a look at it real quick. Let's go through it and we'll see how she's actually going to work in game. She's apparently going to be a one-handed sword user and not a catalyst user. Although this is one part that I'm still skeptical about, but anyway, she's going to have a mutated superconduct reaction, which is going to be the stellar superconduct reaction, which is just like those lunar reactions, but we're going to use the new superconduct reaction. This is not going to be a reaction that's going to be part of all the lunar stuff. It's going to be completely different, and it's going to be part of the new reactions that we're going to be using in Snezhnaya, and it's probably going to have something to do with the Tsaritsa as well. Anyway, she enters a special state, which I'm assuming is her E skill, and in this state, she gives a rest red based on... I have no clue what this is trying to tell us. It's a very bad translation, so we can't make much out of it. But she is going to give some type of rest rate, so she's probably going to be some type of sub DPS or support. It also deals a single instance of high damage, which is pretty cool. Again, this information, you have to take it with a grain of salt because it's a very weird translation and it's not too specific, so we can't be too sure about what exactly they're trying to say here. But, you know, at least it gives us a pretty good idea of how she's going to work. So that's pretty cool. It cannot trigger reactions and does not apply elements. I'm not sure if this is talking about Polonia or if they're talking about something else, but something about her kit doesn't apply elements and something about her kit doesn't trigger reactions. Whatever. This is very broad information, and it might sound bad at first, but she's probably going to have something in her kit that will compensate for this if this is actually true. So you don't have to worry about that. In this state, Cryo and Electro coexist. Some elements can trigger double reactions, and Electro is prioritized for Swirl or Crystallize. The damage frequency for her attacks, again, I think this is her E skill, is every 6 seconds, and higher Cryo or Electro application frequency will accelerate reaction settlement. I'm pretty sure they're talking about how quickly these reactions or these elements are going to be applied, and this is what they mean by settlement, but I'm not too sure. She's supposed to be very strong and very similar to someone like Inefa, which means she's going to have a dedicated support in Snezhnaya, and we're going to talk about that in a second, because this is where a lot of people think is going to be Capitano. But before we talk about that, let's finish this real quick. Sandrone is going to be used with older Cryo and Electro characters, which, if this is true and it stays like that, it's pretty cool. But I have a feeling this can change. Anyway, that's pretty much how her kit is going to work. We have to take this with a grain of salt, but the chances that all this stuff is true are much higher now than they were before. But with that out of the way, let's talk about Sandrone's relation to Capitano and why a lot of people think that Capitano could be her best in slot teammate, which is pretty ridiculous. As I already told you guys, she's going to have a dedicated teammate in Snezhnaya, so she's going to function like Inefa or like Emily. Because of that, a lot of people started speculating that for some reason Capitano could be her best in slot support, and she would be the DPS and Sandrone would be the support for Capitano. I don't know who came up with this, but it's not true. There's a lot of reasons for that, and mainly the biggest reason for that is because every time we get a new character in a new region, it's always a character we've never seen or heard of before, right? Except for Fontaine, that's something else. In Fontaine, we had Linny as the first character, which we already knew of his existence way before that. But when it comes to Natlan, the first character was Kinich, which we never knew of before. The first character in Not Cry was Lauma or Flint's, I don't even remember, but we also never saw that character before, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be the same thing for Not Cry. I don't see any reason why they should suddenly come up with Capitano. It is possible, there's some lore reasons for it, but overall, it's not likely at all for Capitano to be her best in slot teammate, because for that, Capitano would have to be released in version 7.0 to be her dedicated DPS, which is not going to happen. And someone even made a Reddit post on it, which a lot of people in the comments of that post think that this could be a possibility, but I'll tell you guys right now, this is not going to happen. If it's actually going to happen, it would be the most random and most unexpected thing in the history of Genshin. But as a dedicated Capitano Glazer, I can tell you guys, this is 99% not going to happen. Please don't get your hopes up. There's a lot of nonsense that people are saying, and this is one of those things where it's not going to be true. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe it could somehow turn out to be true, but it's very unlikely. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comments. Let me know if you guys are looking forward to pulling her or not. And as always, I wish everyone a nice and wonderful day.